There were 16 messages.
3.
December 13th.
December 13th. What?
McDonald's application for the New York bar should not be approved. As most attorneys are capable, Leone probably made strong arguments based on As a matter of fact, the letter needs to be made available to McDonald's, so why wasn't it made available in public? And why is McDonald's stuck in an unstoppable merry-go-round with the United States court system? McDonald's third appeal attempt resulted in the Court of Appeals refusing to make a decision, but insisted instead he needed to take his case to the U.S. Supreme Court. The High Court is designed to mainly hear cases in which precedents can be made from their decisions, or they are interested in tackling important issues, and is not going to find room on its docket to hear a case against a law student fighting one of its own. And that's true, folks. I've taken about 10 cases to the United States Supreme Court. And that is what it really comes down to, the old boys network. Images of cigar smoking, cigar-filled studies, and WASPs discussing important societal issues come to mind. The "I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine" routine is probably quite effective within judges' chambers. This is completely unacceptable behavior from those who are passing judgment on others' behavior. A thorough investigation needs to be made into the New York State Bar Association's ethics. Amen, no question about it. Christopher McDonald, and that is just what has happened, and that's what I'm experiencing. I won't take the guff of these judges. I won't take their dishonesty. I won't take their violation of the statutes of the United States litigated by, by Congress. I will not take, legislated by Congress. I will not take the violations of our constitutional rights. I will not take their crookedness and their dishonesty. And I stand up and I fight for America. And when you do that, every judge in the world is going to be against you. And every case you have is going to be dismissed. And every ruling is going to be against you. So I think it's terrible what they've done to Chris McDonald, and I admire Chris McDonald for standing up for him. He's probably right about Judge Leone. And Chris said that they asked the people at the hearing, was any letter written against Chris? And they said no. Yet, when they saw the files themselves, they found the letter. And another wheeze and a crooked thing they pull is, no, you can't see the file until it's redacted. But even in redacted form, Chris found the letter. So you see, it's as they say, it's an old boys network. It's as crooked can be. This is my computer disk for the Chiron computer at 111 New South Road, Cablevision. And it has my graphics on it. And I'm trying to battle with the Chiron and make it work and make it come up with the graphics. And if you've seen a lot of glitches in my program lately, remember, it's because I am not used to that editing. And I have to do it all by myself, and I have to figure out things all by myself alone. And you might see glitches, you might see it go to snow. So just bear with it until we win the fight with the editing at Hicksville, for which I'm very grateful. Everybody, Benjamin says, the mind is a wonderful thing. His wife said, yes, everybody should have one. And you heard about Tony? Tony got 30 days so often, they're thinking of naming a month after him. And Dorothy says the boss is a born executive, and the other secretary says, no question about it, his father owns a company. I knew that I disconnected my cable TV. right? I'm not going to take any more from those people. I want you to be very careful to read your subscriber privacy notice. You have lots of rights given to you by the Congress of the United States about the information that a cable company has on you. So you be very, very careful of it. And it's interesting here to know that as described above, the Cable Act establishes your rights as a customer and the limits upon the cable operator with respect to the collection and disclosure of customer information. You have the right to inspect our records that contain information about you and to correct any error in our information. The Cable Act requires us to inform you concerning the period during which we will retain information. There can be disclosure by court action. Also, it says here that you have a private right to enforce the cable law. You have a private right to enforce it. It says so in the cable law, and it says so in this paper. So read this very, very carefully. And of course, you know, what makes a good cable TV contract? Words too big to understand and printing too small to read. So be sure that you read this. It says here, there are few values better today than cable television. Every day cable brings you in hundreds of programs which, offer some of the finest in entertainment. I would say some of the worst in entertainment. I told you the Huntington Library is closed this week because of asbestos. A new year is coming upon us, folks, right here. Finest in entertainment. I would say some of the worst in entertainment. I told you the Huntington Library is closed this week because of asbestos. A new year is coming upon us, folks, right here in 1997. This is the picture, I believe, that Newsday took of Glendora when they did the article. They sent a photographer and took this picture. I said to the president and members of the Women's League of our church, Glendora, I request you consider alternative menus that do not agonize, terrorize, brutalize, and murder innocent animals. Thou shalt not kill. Here's a recipe that is much more healthy, much tastier, much less expensive, and easier to prepare. And the last church dinner they did have vegetarian food, and it was delicious. And, everybody ate it in great amounts. Here is a rabies vaccination certificate. Now, folks, I think that that's all a scam. I've never seen a cat in my life with rabies. Never. And my life is 68 years old, and I've had many, many, many cats. 20, 30, 40. Rescued them. And so I think it's a money-making thing by veterinarians. I think it's greed. And I don't think that we should be pushed into it. And then there's also a question that all of these vaccinations, things are no better. They might even be worse. And I don't like putting the animal through the pain anyhow. I have an announcement here for you from the Center for Judicial Accountability. The bar associations refuse to furnish data substantiating their ratings of judicial candidates. In other words, the bar association comes along and gives a rating to a judicial candidate because they're going to get it back in a decision or an order down the line. Recent request to the Westchester Bar Association and Westchester Women's Bar Association for data on the 4 judicial candidates in the race for 2 state Supreme Court posts in the 9th Judicial District of New York. Judge J. Emmett Murphy, Judge John R. LaCarver, and Judge W. Dennis Donovan, rated by the associations as well qualified, and practitioner Michael Burnmell, rated as qualified, have been disregarded according to the Center for Judicial Accountability, Incorporated. Center for Judicial Accountability, 914-421-1200. If you have a complaint about a judge. I have a typewriter, folks. Would you buy it from me, please? It's $133. And I don't use that typewriter. It's brand new, and it's in the box, and it's in the housing and everything. So if you know anybody who wants to buy my typewriter, let me know, please. We need the money to buy a new copying machine, which is broken down. I have some pages to show you. I've asked the Dean of the Touro Law School to call, or Franklin has asked him twice. He never has, so he's just like any other lawyer, dehumanized. But there were some things to show you. Here's a picture. This is from their catalog. Here's a picture of a professor and a student in a law library. And this is computer online library research. I'm just about through reading this. This is about students and student life. Dormitory accommodations, area housing, because this is right where I live, you know. This is right where my address is, 1395 New York Avenue. These people are working on the Touro Law Review. Student community involvement. That's my community. That, of course, I would think would be Cold Spring Harbor. We take care of disadvantaged students. There's a great picture, right? It says it's only 30 miles from there. Other pictures. Here's Judith Kay, the Chief Judge of the State of New York, who replaced Saul Wackler, the Chief Judge of the State of New York, who went to prison. Don't we have a wonderful court system in the state of New York? Wowee. But this is Judge Kay at the law library. This woman is, it says here, well, keep her picture in mind and then I'll read what it says. But here are the faculty. There's a professor. Now, doesn't he look like a professor? And J. Kirkland Grant, I'm going to read you something that he says. Here's more faculty. Just about through this book. This may be the last time I'm showing you anything from it. And this is Eileen Kaufman. I'll read you what she says, one paragraph of it. More faculty. This is the Touro Law Center in Huntington, New York. Honorable George C. Pratt. More faculty. And a class profile. And here's a beautiful picture. The rest of it is about the law school admission test. And here's a pretty picture. Here's a graduate right here who started late in life to be a lawyer. And I think this is the end. The Board of Trustees. Is that spelled B-O-R-E-D? And the Truro Law Center Board of Visitors. And the application. And that ends the book. Just let me read you a few statements, as I said I would to you. Truro Law Center, Huntington, New York. You heard about the professor who was asked, what was the name of your mother before she was married? And he said, I had no mother before she was married. Nina Santucci Posgar prosecutes some of the toughest criminals in Suffolk County, New York. She is described by her colleagues as a charismatic individual who is highly respected for her thorough pretrial preparation and expert litigation skills. She first started working in the Rackets Bureau of the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office as a summer intern in 1984. That's the year the Cable Act was written. Following a second internship in the summer of 1985, she was offered a job as an assistant district attorney after her graduation from Truro Law Center in 1986. Now, J. Kirkland Grant says, people often speak of the law as a learned profession. Well, this is true, he says. What you will learn in law school, as well as throughout your legal career, will clearly distinguish you from others. But the law is not mysticism. Any relatively bright person can master the discipline. The difference between the journeyman lawyer and the professional is the ability to act in a wise manner. Wisdom and knowledge are the goals of a truly effective legal education. Eileen R. Kaufman, my interest in law stems from a belief that the law is an effective tool to accomplish social reform. Who needs the reform? The lawyers. The law is at its best when it serves as an engine powering social reform movements. Yeah, what society has to do is protect itself from lawyers. Beverly McQuarrie Smith. I believe that I teach my students by example. Throughout my career, I have striven for excellence. My expectations are the same for my students. I expect them to be dedicated, to be tough, to be able to analyze facts, and to develop superior writing and advocacy skills. Above all, I want them to have the ability to rely on an internal moral compass to point them in the right direction when faced with an ethical dilemma or problem. To me, these are the characteristics an individual needs to enjoy a successful career in law. It would be nice if it were true. I say the compass always points to the dollar sign. Honorable George C. Pratt. I began working in my father's law office at 16, and after that there was never any question in my mind as to which career path I would follow. Following in the footsteps of a succession of judges in his family, the Honorable George C. Pratt has achieved a highly esteemed reputation in the practice of law and as a member of the judiciary. Barbara E. Swartz. All of my life I have abhorred injustice and wanted to right the wrong around me. This belief led Barbara E. Swartz to attend New York University Law School, where she received her J.D. in 1971. The year I began law school there, there was more woman acceptance than ever before, partly because men were being drafted in increasing numbers for the Vietnam War. While at law school, I helped found one of the first women's law students associations. One of our initial endeavors was to persuade the school to do away with gender-based restrictions on the Root Tilden public interest fellowships, which had historically been closed to women. After law school, Professor Swartz was the first woman to be hired as a Reginald Heber Smith Poverty Law Fellow with Camden Legal Services in New Jersey. Class profile. Last year, the Law Center admitted 260 first-year students and 15 transfer students into the Juris Doctor program, 15 candidates for the Master of Laws degree in U.S. Legal Studies, and a small number of visiting students. The entering class comprises generally 40 to 45% women and 20 to 25% members of minority groups. The majority of students enroll in the first-time division. Average ages in the two divisions are consistent with recent trends: 26 for full-time students, 41 for part-time students. And Edward A. Moritz, Commander, U.S. Coast Guard Reserve, B.S. Regents College of the University of the State of New York, as a second career student in the full-time day division. I find that clearly one of Turo's strengths is the diversity and quality of its student body. Older, experienced students enhance the quality of legal education for all through the wealth of life experiences they bring to the classroom. It's very hard to read this shiny paper. And Wendy Pike says, one reason I chose to attend Toro Law Center was a strong administrative support system for students of color. All right. And Kathy M. Beck, B.A., M.B.A., Hofstra University, M.A., Seton Hall University. Toro Law Center's faculty, administration, as well as fellow students are more than willing to help a disabled colleague, giving you every opportunity to compete at the same level as your peers. So we are reading you excerpts from the Toro Law Center catalog, Huntington, New York. This is a letter from the CEO of Texaco to me, a shareholder, saying that the settlement was the honorable and right course to take in Roberts versus Texaco class action, filed in 1994. The settlement involves the payment of $115 million to the plaintiff class, a one-time salary increase which will not exceed $4 million to currently employed members of the plaintiff class, and the creation of a task force that will propose changes in the company's human resources programs and monitor progress. We are convinced that expeditiously settling the lawsuit moves the issues we face from the realm of confrontation in the courts into the arena of active cooperation and joint action. So they settle it, and they're justifying it. Rakoff and Fox, you ought to read this. To achieve a workplace characterized by fairness, tolerance, and mutual respect for all men and women, where any individual can contribute his or her unique skills and experience and maximize value for all stakeholders. When the events about employee misconduct were first reported, I immediately apologized to the American public and to people around the world. Can you ever find Dolan doing that, or Malone doing that, or Hofstadter doing that, or McCormick doing that? That was about the racial discrimination in Texaco. News notes. Cablevision of Newark took home the prestigious 1996 Hometown Video Festival Award. Cablevision of Connecticut, Norwalk, and Bridgeport has earned the National Cable Television Association Seal of Customer Service. The National Cable Television Associated awarded the Bangor, Maine system its Seal of Customer Service Excellent. I used to be program manager at the Bangor, Maine cable TV. It wasn't owned by Cablevision then. It was owned by Maine Cable Television, Murray Briggs, and then they sold it to Adams Russell, the same people who had the Lindbrook system, and then all Adams Russell was bought up by Cablevision. Okay, that's news notes from Cablevision. It's a news and views supplement for September 25th, 1990. Excuse me, November 25th, a month ago. Tomorrow, day after, is Christmas, and it's our 42nd wedding anniversary. We were married on Christmas Day in the year 1954 in Wellesley Hills, Massachusetts, a very wealthy suburb of Boston. Here's the third quarter report of Cablevision, and they state, I don't remember getting a second quarter report from them, and they state that their assets are $2.9 billion. And they talk about recent developments, and I don't know how much of this you want to hear. They talk about their cash flow. They don't tell about their litigation expenses, which is a bad thing, because instead of paying for crooked lawyers and a liar for hire, they should pay dividends to the stockholders. Their revenues, apparently 9 months ended September 30th of this year, 96. Their revenues were $955 million. And as I say, their assets are $2.9 billion. That's better than they were. I read that to you before as $2.5 billion. But they're still a small cable company. Net cash provided by operating activities is $169 million. And they stole our $350. Cash and cash equivalents at the end of the period, that would be September 30th, the third quarter, $26 million. On October 15, 1996, Rainbow Programming made a payment of $81,250 to ITT, increasing its partnership interest in Madison Square Garden from approximately 15% to 26%. On September 9, 1996, ITT Corporation exercised an option granted pursuant to a letter agreement dated February 4, 1996, to acquire a 50% general partnership interest in Sports Channel, New York. On August 13, 1996, the company acquired the partnership interest in U.S. Cable that it did not already own for approximately $4,000. It should be $4 million. Now they tell me it's in thousands. It should be $4 million. Everything that I read to you, add 000. And there goes my Cross River Cable TV has gone to Cablevision. On September 27, 1996, the company acquired from Warburg Pincus Investa LP Warburg the equity interest for that Warburg owned in Cablevision of Newark. During the second quarter of 1996, the company wrote off $24 million of deferred interest and financing costs. During the third quarter of 1996, the company wrote off $10 million of deferred financing costs. Okay, Rainbow Programming has the right to require ITT to purchase all of Rainbow Programming's interest in Madison Square Garden for an amount equal to the price paid by Rainbow Programming for such interest, plus certain interest payments made by Rainbow Programming. Figure that one out. Okay, and then we got North Coast, and then we've got Laurel Space and Communications. Is that all you want to know? I think so. This is signed, not signed. by Barry J. O'Leary, Senior Vice President of Finance and Treasurer. It is not signed by William J. Bell, Principal Financial Officer of Cablevision Systems. It is not signed by Andrew B. Rosengard as Senior Vice President and Controller and Chief Accounting Officer of Cablevision Systems Corporation, and that's a new kid on the block. And they don't give any litigation expenses. How much of the shareholders' money has gone into litigation? Folks, I must show you the new book put out by Michael Zamuda, Z-M-U-D-A, How to Run the Chiron VP2. They did a great job, and it was my drawing attention to the fact that the instructions I had were for the VP, were for the Chiron down in Lynbrook, and they weren't for the Chiron in Hicksville. And so Michael got right away onto the job, and he wrote a new book, and he revised the conflicts in the old book. Getting down to business, using the VP2, powering up the VP2, or you turn me on. How to format a disk. Quote, only do this once, or you'll be sorry. Creating a page, using your TV as a memo pad. Setting your character attributes. You look really good in red. Changing the predefined colors, or painting by number. Setting the background color and transparency, or are we clear on that, Crystal? Repositioning text on the screen, or move it or lose it. Copying a character attribute from an on-screen character, or cut and paste has never been this easy, excuse me. General editing. Insert a deletable joke here. Miscellaneous, or why did the chicken cross the road? Saving a file, or save me, save me. The auto display, or you have the pages, now arrange them into chapters. File name to display, or let's call him Harold. Q, wait for me to tell you when to go. Delay, what's taking you so long? Repetitions, play it again, Sam. Adding a step page. I don't feel like coming up with a witty quote for this one. Saving your auto display. Save the whales, not the auto displays. So I've just started reading that, and I think I'm getting a little more adept at Chiron, and I'm sorry for all the mistakes in the program as I learn this, because I have to do the editing all by myself, and the equipment is new to me, and so I have to wing it. So you'll see a lot of mistakes, so just bear with them until this thing irons out. This is a offer by John C. Malone. Would you like to see his signature? John C. Malone is in trouble, and I'm happy to report that. It couldn't happen to a nicer person who murdered public access and who murdered public access TV production. So this is, they're making a new stock, a new company, and they're selling stock on the stock market under the name of, just a second, TSAT, Television Satellite A, and TSAT B, Television Satellite B. And so this is a new offering, and it's been sent to all of us shareholders. And it's connected with PrimeStar, so whenever you take satellite, make sure you do not take PrimeStar, because that's owned by TCI, a bunch of crooks. And so I started reading this, and I don't know if there's anything here that you want to hear or not. As a distributor of PrimeStar, the PrimeStar Partners, LP PrimeStar Partners, Programming Service PrimeStar, and Malone says, and then Gary Howard is the President and Chief Executive Officer of TCI Satellite Entertainment Incorporated. Announcements that have been backed up here for weeks. I have to tell you about Continental. Nothing's happening on Continental. Judge Smith hasn't made her decision. She's had it since July, whether to grant the crooked defendants a motion for summary judgment. There are many reasons why such a motion cannot be granted. She hasn't answered my letter about the conflict that she is the magistrate designated on Glendora versus Magnus and not Judge Fox. And so that's just some more stuff that goes on in the court. You know, you hear about white-collar crime. It's the black robe crime that you got to keep your eye on. Officer James Stead, I made an order to show cause, and it was served on Stead and on the Corporation Council, City of White Plains. And that order to show cause is to stay all action in the White Plains City Court pending my appeal of the dumb appellate term to the New York State Court of Appeals. And so that's in the process. The order to show cause has been signed, it's been served, the opposition has been presented, and my reply affidavit to that opposition has been presented. And I can't read you that because Franklin has that because he's out serving it. And that's where this case stands with a police officer named James Stead who lied and said that Glendora went through a red light when she didn't go through a red light. So where do you go when the police break the law? And who's going to police the police, as Rit Goldstein keeps saying? Who is going to police the police? Ooh, Henry, I can't give you 2 hours for lunch. If I were to do that for you, I'd have to do that for every man whose wife just gave birth to quintuplets. And work is really important, folks, because if it weren't for work, where would you rest up from your vacation? Like the Board of Elections. And because if it weren't for work, where would you rest up from your vacation? Like the Board of Elections. And Peter said, my former business had nothing to do with football, but it ended up in the hands of a receiver. We're reporting to you on the law-breaking of John Malone and Telecommunications Incorporated. The company is sliding downhill. They couldn't happen to a nicer person. The giant cable TV company is having a hard time coming back. It is sad that they're laying off 2,500 people, but there are much better companies to work for. We got the same old story from the United States Court of Appeals Second Circuit about my grievance against Judge Fox. They gave me the same answer that they've given everybody else in 1995 and 1996 so far. John Newman, the chief judge, has given the same answer. He always rules in favor of the judge and against the complainant. So I am asking for a review of his decision before the Judicial Council. And so I hand in my reasons for review and my reasons for complaining against Mark D. Fox. And it's 10 pages handwritten. And I get a letter back from them, oh, this is not brief, it's 10 pages. Well, naturally, handwritten is going to be 10 pages. And so Franklin is kind enough to type it over for me. And that's where that stands. He's on a schedule and a hope of typing 2 pages a day, and we have until January 3rd to get it in. And you don't know all the trouble folks they give you in the beginning to find out what the rules are to complain about a judge. What a crooked system. You've heard of white-collar crime? Welcome to black robe crime. Black robe crime. We have here that TCI wants to make a motion to dismiss my action against Glendora versus Bob Magnus because TCI closed down our TV editing facilities, so we have no place to edit our programs, therefore we have no way to make a cassette, therefore we have nothing to hand into TCI to cablecast, therefore our freedom of speech has been violated. And I want to make a motion for summary judgment, and I handed that in Friday when it was due. And now here is their two-page letter brief to Judge Fox, their reasons for giving a motion for dismiss. And here's my opposition. Joshua N. Koenig gives no proof that he is representing billionaire John C. Malone, nor Telecommunications Incorporated, nor the rest of Glendora's defendants. Nor does Bertram Perkel give such proof after having been asked if they do represent them for limited purposes only, for proof as of when. If they do represent them, it is easy enough to give proof. Since they do not represent, they are in default and owe plaintiff $600 million. This is plaintiff's opposition to December 20th letter brief to dismiss her case. Koenig letter brief gives no substantiation, factual nor legal, that Glendora has no claim upon which relief can be granted. Entirely ignored is the material part of Glendora's grievance and charge. Defendants robbed her of her public access TV production facilities. She cannot edit her program 8mm to 3/4 inch with graphics and music. She therefore has no 3/4 inch videotape to hand the cable company to cablecast, and 3/4 inch is the only format this backward cable company can cablecast. Hence she is not on TV, hence her free speech is abridged. It's free speech is murdered. This letter of Koenig fails to deal with the gravamen of the case and with the claim upon which relief can be granted. This decision was made by Bob Magnus and John Malone and the board of directors. It was made by them for all over the nation. Glendora has provided this court with proof of same. The cutback in Denver and in Vail, the command of Bear Stearns for Malone to explain why our stock dropped from $18 a share to $11 a share. The announcement by Malone, he was cutting back executive salaries and eliminating company aircraft and laying off 2,500 people. This is all in the record Glendora has provided this court. Glendora sued Wadman and Sirkin at the local Westchester TCI. They are not an indispensable party, and failure to name an indispensable party, Rules 19, 20, and 21 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure is hardly grounds for dismissal unless there's a fix. Misjoinder, even if it exists, is hardly grounds to dismiss a case. Not one thing Koenig, who has run away from proving he is representing Glendora's defendants, states deals with the merits, and the United States District Court is under statutory mandate to adjudicate civil cases on the merits, codified as 28 U.S. Code Section 473A. Defendants have not provided an adequate Rule 9 statement, and it should have been provided up front the first day, as did Time Warner. Glendora has a private right of action adjudicated by the Second Circuit January 11, 1995, and adjudicated by Judge Bryant July 19, 1995. To say she doesn't is a lie to her, Judge Bryant, and Judges Van Graflin, Minor, and McLaughlin. It is a lie to say directors of Telecommunications Incorporated had no responsibility for any matter in the dispute. We all know, as shareholders, they do, and they better have, because they are getting our dividend money plus $3,000 per board meeting plus $500 per telephone conference. If they have no responsibility, we shareholders, we should get rid of them. All defendants are liable under 47 United States Code 531. No cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public usage channel. They took away my facilities to make videotapes and murdered my free speech. That is editorial control. Glendora's case cannot be dismissed. There is an action under color of state. Public access is an exclusively governmental function, as admitted herein, under any franchise obligation. All the franchises said the cable system had to provide TV production facilities. Some of them currently under temporary operating authority have to abide to the terms of the old franchises. This was supposed to be a 2-page letter brief. Glendora gets 3 pages because of being handwritten, double-spaced, and Koenig has single-spaced, disjointed footnotes. Finally, Glendora's case cannot be dismissed for the following reason, given by the Second Circuit, United States Court of Appeals. That reason right down there, can you see it, folks? Unless it appears beyond doubt that the plaintiff can prove no set of facts in support of her claim, which would what? What's that word? Something her to relief. Entitle her to relief. Koenig does not deal with this. United States District Court is under a congressional mandate to deal with cases on their merits. Koenig does not deal with the merits. Defendants have no merits. Meritorious defense and never will have. Glendora, Chatwick, Glendora, yours in truth. That isn't due until Friday, December 27th. I've already found another letter brief that I'm going to send with it, which says that the Cable Act of 1984 says that a person has a private right of action and can take a cable company to court and enforce the law. The problem is to find a judge who enforces the law. This crooked Bertram Perkle, Baker and Botts, is trying to get Judge Jones to rule against Glendora on her other motions and to take them as moot. It's all railroading. The 200-page motion for relief from order has been sent to Judge Jones, I believe, this morning, and submitted to the court, and have served on the who? They don't have any lawyers. And that's 220 pages. And it's all about, you've heard of white collar crime? Well, this is black robe crime. Black robe crime. White collar crime, black robe crime. And she has violated the statutes of the United States, the Constitution of the United States. It's my feeling that the decision that she said she wrote was really written by William C. Connor, and that it was Connor who had his finger in the pie to tell TCI to turn off the audio when Glendora was reporting on what Connor did, and when Glendora was playing the audio tape of Connor, Judge Connor's telephone conversation with Glendora. And that's under color of state. So it's a bunch of crooked lawyers and corrupt judges. And as far as moving for summary judgment, I have read that to you before the court told me to submit a 2-page letter. Well, they have no defense, and they never will have a defense. And there's no dispute of facts, so it could be a summary judgment. In my favor, of course. And that's for $600 million. I don't know how many hours I've spent on the law-breaking, lying, and covering up of one John Malone. The last count I have goes back to the 9th week of the 9th day of December. I would say round it off this way, $5,000 in print and postage, and rip off court stenographer fees. 2,000 hours. And at $250 an hour, which is what these crooked monopoly antitrust lawyers soak the public for, that would be $500,000 worth of legal labor they've made us do. 1 year, 1 month of emotional disturbance and interruption of life and career. There's something like 11,000 pages of bad record, traitorship to America, law-breaking, lying, and covering up. About 122 chapters on television reporting their betrayal to America. But we've got the defeat of Ben Wiles. That crooked lawyer is out. He's been fired. Good. Now if we could get a few judges fired. The old boys club. The crooked old boys club, all self-interest. The judge never makes a decision on what is best for the country, or what is best for the innocent, or what is best for the injured. Judges always make decisions on what is best for judges, the self-interest. I'm trying to look around and think of something else that's going on. But see, I'm handicapped because all of the papers had to be in this morning, and they're out of here, so I can't read them to you. PCI takes television into yesterday. Turn from doing all the serving and submitting of those legal papers. Would you bring them over and show the folks the box full of legal papers? The whole box. So here it is, folks. So how did things go? Did it really? And did the... you didn't finish? And here's the in-mail. This is the in-mail?
Yes.
And the in-mail is a whole bunch more of crooked lawyers and corrupt judges. So what did happen? Did the United States District Court fill in their missing files? That's another problem we have. The pro se clerk doesn't file things. They don't get into the file. They don't get into the record because they say black robe crime. What else, Franklin?
Well, I got all the things in the mail and served went to the bank.
The Lincoln got lubed at 226,000 miles.
You is so ferocious. Yeah, you so ferocious.
Still biting, folks. Still biting the hand that feeds him. But he's awful cute, black and shiny and soft.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Can't you kiss him? He has his moments. He kisses sometimes. And of course he bothers the other cats. To distraction, it's awful. Michael Gelman, well, I took Michael Gelman to the New York State Court of Appeals, and we haven't heard anything from that. They'll be forever, of course, and then they won't do anything. It's a useless court, New York State Court of Appeals. And Hubbard, with a $4,500 judgment, that Elizabeth Hubbard and her greedy lawyer, Edmund Purvis, are trying to wring out of a person who is informer pauperis. We went to court on Monday because Colabella said he was going to, or at least Purvis made an application to sign it on Monday, the $4,500 judgment, which means nothing because the money isn't there, for attorney's fees. And all the things I read to you about that. Anyhow, Colabella was loafing. He wasn't even in the courthouse. He wasn't in his courtroom. He wasn't in his robing room. He wasn't in his chambers. He was just plain loafing. So nothing came of that. We got $9 from a lawyer named Galgano, who was representing the youth when they pled guilty to burglary, coming into our house and stealing toy money off of the wall. The Wall case, Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin has gone to the United States Supreme Court, and the other side has to submit a brief. The landlord, John Porzio, went into a temper fit and ordered on insanity, really, about the two cats in the cellar, or one cat, or whatever, and we're trying to get the cats out, and we've got Penny out, and we've got Penny spayed, as you well know. And we have, her baby is left, and we're trying to get her baby, and her baby won't go into the cat trap so that we can catch the baby and help the baby, because I have a home for that baby. Anyway, he went off the deep end, and he used female abusive words He got within 4 inches of my face with a lighted cigar. And then finally, 4 feet away, he spit in my face. So I brought charges against him to the district attorney, and I filled out my complaint on Friday, and we will see what happens to that. And then while I was handing in or Franklin was handing in the affidavit of service for James Stead, which is malicious prosecution about going through a red light, which didn't happen, we went to the records department to get that police report on John Porzio spitting in somebody's face. And Eric Fisher was there, and he says, "Glendora, bad news and good news, we towed your car." "Why?" "It was leaking gasoline." "Glendora, I don't believe it." Eric Fisher, "You think that I would stand here and lie to you?" I said, "I don't know about that, but I don't believe there's a gas leak in that car." And Eric Fisher says, "Well, we had to take it away. It was a hazard." He says, "There was gasoline in 3 parking spaces." I said, "I don't believe it." And I went downstairs in the library garage, and there was sand in 2 parking spaces, one of the places where the Lincoln had been. And then we went over to Rick, and then, and the worst thing of all is that they had towed the car out of the library garage and towed it to Hartsdale. Now, how crooked can you get? There are 6 towing companies in White Plains, so they towed it as far as they could, 5 miles to Hartsdale. So I went over and I asked Rick, my garage man, he's a tow company too, and he's a block away from the courthouses where I was parked. And I asked him to go over and pick up the car, tow it back to his place, and examine it for any gasoline leaks. Rick did that, and Rick charged me, the Crooks S&L in Hartsdale charged $60 for it. And then Rick charged $35 to bring it over to his place, so it was $95. And he went all over that car, and he put it up on a lift, and he left it up there for 40 minutes. There's not one single gas leak or any other leak. A phantom gas leak, a bogus gas leak, malicious prosecution again by the White Plains Police. The authority to tow the car was signed by Lieutenant Evans of the White Plains Fire Department. You remember him? We summoned the White Plains Fire Department for toxic fumes coming from barbecue grills in the summertime. He came up, he did not do his job. He faked around, and I videotaped him and I showed it to you, his terrible record. So there you have retaliation on that. He signed the order, and probably to have it towed all the way to Hartsdale. So that's one great big lawsuit that's coming up. To the question that you've asked you before and before. Where do you go when the White Plains Police break the law? Where do you go when the White Plains Police break the law? I think over at Cablevision they'd make a change in management, but they can't figure out who's running the place now. And Steve said, "I won't tell you how badly our company was doing, but at the last annual meeting they played taps." And Peter says, "I walked into the place and I asked for change for a 20 and they made me a partner." That concludes the reports on the law-breaking cable companies for the week of December the 16th up to today, 2 days before Christmas, December the 23rd. Keep your courage flaming, and remember that all of these people have to stand judgment before God. It'll come to an end someday.
Message 2617.
Thank you, Fred.
7:57 a.m. Thursday, January 5. Glendora Bernie from Cablevision. I just wanted to let you know that on Wednesdays, the next 2 Wednesdays, the boys are going to be off for the holiday. And I really want to talk to you about putting a program on Thursday, so we don't miss a week. It's Monday evening at 5:30. You know what? I'll try you again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye. Message 8:30 a.m. Thursday, January 5. End of messages. Answer off. Hey, in Hicksville, I miss John Garner. He's gone on to the big time. He's editing all day, and I won't be here to take your call. Thursday night after Christmas and Thursday night after New Year's Day, if okay, please leave on this recorder when you call back today, Tuesday, Christmas Eve. Please leave the time that you're going to cablecast the chat with Glendora on Thursday after Christmas and the Thursday after New Year's. Now, this message is for everybody else. The boss isn't as well off as you think. The telephone in his car is a party line. And
I filed a lawsuit the day before Pearl Harbor. Cablevision took my program off of TV, and I believe it was because I was reporting the truth to you. And I was telling you about the Department of Consumer Affairs not requiring Scott Lord to have a home improvement license when everybody else has to have one, and not protecting you consumers. That's what it was about. And also that the District Attorney's Office was not protecting you consumers and taking care of this matter. And I believe that political pressure was put on Cablevision, Dolan, Todd, and Quinn to take the program off of TV. They've been editorial control over public access channel. And I sued them and I won, and I didn't get my $31 million yet. And we had a trial scheduled for February 28th, March the 4th. This trial was scheduled 4 days later. Judge Bryant of the United States District Court, Southern District of New York in White Plains, very suspiciously stayed that trial. Very suspiciously. And Franklin had given Dolan, Todd, Quinn, and Cablevision $70 statute. You have to give them $40 for the day that they lose testifying in court, and you have to give them $30 travel, or that's what you figured it out to be. And they took those $70 checks, 5 of them, $350, and when the trial was stayed, instead of returning the money to Franklin, as honest and discreet men would do, they deposited the money and converted it to their own use, unjustly enriched themselves. And we brought them to court in Yonkers, and the recent development on that, and there's another bad judge down there in Dickinson. Judges do not rule on the law, nor on the merits, nor on the facts. They rule on what is best for the self-interest of the judges. This is black robe crime. You've heard of white-collar crime. We have black robe. So now we're appealing that to the appellate term, and they won't let you appeal unless you buy the minutes, which is another racket and another ripoff. But anyway, we had the minutes typed for $36, 16. At Bede's down in Massapequa on Nancy Street. And that was the microphone wasn't plugged in. It was on the panoramic mic, and that was $36. And to fill out the form to settle them in. Callagy. Now I changed cameras, okay? This is my second camcorder because with the pinch roller problem. And now this one keeps shutting off. And so keeps I hastily filled out Callagy, David Light. And this is Sadly Stevenson Burke. Paid to these. The length of this case is caused step is for them to make to appeal Silverman's decision. So, are there any other courts that they've got? Yonkers, United States Court of Department, New York Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court. Wouldn't it have been far better 3 years ago? So this is the file, the most recent file that was closed up, and thank heaven I made it by stuffing it and making it over fat like myself. I had, it's file 46, but I had to, I got it in there anyhow. File 47 is the Cablevision investigations, and then I had to start file 40 for the new year. That's coming up in 2 days. This is Cablevision file 48. The terrible statistics that these people and bad record that they have piled up, in addition to being traitors to their country, follows. Their law breaking, with their lying, and with their cut itself off again. Dolan, Todd, Quinn, and Cablevision have cost us $8,276.14 in printing, in postage, and in rip-off court. 8,913 hours. That's almost 4,000 hours out of our lives. And a lawyer, well, I changed the power pack to see if that'll stop the camera from shutting off. Maybe it is my physiognomy that makes the camera shut off. Anyway, 3,000 to watch this more than I watch look you eyeball to eyeball. Turning itself off. And I said maybe it's my physiognomy that does it. And so I have to watch the remote control instead of looking you eyeball to eyeball. And in the lawyer monopoly that we have in the state of New York, a lawyer soaks the public. It's a monopoly. It's antitrust. We've got to do something about it, and that's why we have Americans for Legal Reform. And at $250 an hour times 4,000 hours, that comes out to, in legal labor, that we have had to do, $978,000 in legal labor. 47 volumes, 15,292 pages. Law-breaking, lying, and covering up, and traitorship to the American flag. Traitorship to America. 3 years of it. 307 TV programs reporting this betrayal of America by Dolan, Tata, Quinn, and Cablevision, and 346 mailings. And the New Star file just got itself off again. That's why you saw the glitch. I don't know how we're going to get through these reports to you today. The new file, file 48, which starts out the new year, 1997. And we will have to sit down, you and I, and list the things that happened in 1996, good and bad. This interesting thing happened about a woman named Marguerite G, and her last name has 15 letters. And this is a derivative action. And let me hope to come around and show it to you before the camera shuts off. And I am opposed to this settlement. I'm going to read you my paper so far why I am opposed to this settlement. There's Wexler, the lawyer. What's his name? United States District Court, Southern District of New York. Margaret G. I took the best power pack I have, the new one that Walter Letow gave me from Canon.
I did do that. You have something?
This is the derivative action. The lawyers Wexler, Ostriga, attorneys for the plaintiff, United States District Court, Southern District of New York, Margaret G, derivative in behalf of Cablevision Systems Corporation. That's in behalf of our shareholders, not in behalf of the management. And see all the defendants. Okay, and this is the, it's 96 Civ 1400, that's a lucky number. And it's before Judge Stein in notice of pendency of derivative action, proposed settlement and settlement hearing and right to appear. That means we shareholders have a right to appear. And that applies to you, Carl Lancesera, and to Harvey Cash, and to Richard Einhorn, and to Bob Goldberg, and to Lee Jameson, to Ray Jameson, and Alan, Andy Hersman. This is of concern to you because, well, I'm going to read you what I've said about this. Object to proposed settlement of February . Point 1, page 2, Glendora declares she is telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her God. 40% attorney's fees are not fair and are outrageously more than adequate. It is extravagant, pompous, lavish, wasteful, and prodigal. There is no attorney's log or costs or fees annotated in the notice not received by Glendora until December 17, 1996, Tuesday, 12 p.m. Anno Domini. On page 3 of the notice, line 7, what does as the merits of a claim or defend asserted by the parties mean? That's not worth 40%. The settlement is for $1 million, and this attorney wants 40% of it. Is that in the interest of the shareholders? Is that in the interest of the plaintiff, Margaret? A shareholder cannot be expected to know what 16B of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, nor 15 U.S. Code Section 7PB means. It seems the shareholder should be told in plain Anglo-Saxon terms what plaintiff alleged the defendants did wrong and what the defendant's defense is and what the merits of this case are. At a satellite office of the United States District Court, Southern District, New York, shareholder Glendora (1400 SHS), Judge Stein. Entries up to the last, which was on December 13th, 1996, 2 days before Christmas, and cannot, we're looking for page 3 here. I'll have to shut the camera off. A thing about what the case is about. Or again, why do Cablevision shareholders have to bear the cost of printing the notice, stuffing envelopes, and postage? And how much is that total? How much does plaintiff allege were the short swing profits? So defendants deny it, but where is the proof? Where is the discovery? Where are the interrogatories? Where are the depositions? Inspections on the premises. Certainly plaintiff has them, or defendants would not settle. In other words, she has them. Brokers would not settle. And why is $1 million being awarded to Cablevision Systems Corporation, a defendant, by other defendants? And what does Marguerite G., the plaintiff, receive in compensation and punitive damages, in compensatory and commutative? All right, let's try again. And what does Marguerite G., the plaintiff, receive in compensatory and punitive damages? She is the whistleblower and did a noble thing. Trial, for jury trial, Rule 38, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and 7th Amendment, she should have the same. These matters must be brought out to the public. This is First Amendment right, your right to know. And what do the innocent and injured shareholders gain from the settlement? What relief do they get? Amended said through Wolfson did wrong and what their liability to us shareholders is. Point 14, writes Mr. Wexler, and it's long and long and long. Plaintiff's counsel has concluded a thorough examination into the facts and law relating to the matters set forth in the underlying complaint and in connection with the court's ruling on plaintiff's motion to amend the complaint. And not settling, which could result if the action were tried to a conclusion, or in a recovery which is less than the proposed settlement payment which the parties have negotiated. For these reasons, plaintiff's counsel has concluded that the settlement herein is fair and in the best interest of Cablevision Systems Corporation. Says Glendora, the shareholders are getting the shaft. This is a quick fix. To line 8 of Mr. Wexler's page 5, Glendora wants to know what are these substantial benefits, quote, unquote. Certainly Mr. Wexler is anticipating a substantial benefit of 40%. Counsel may conclude, quote, settlement is in best interest of Cablevision Systems Corporations, unquote, but on what grounds do shareholders have an opportunity to conclude the same? Glendora thinks the matter must be related to the Cablevision Systems Corporation annual meeting this June in Woodbury, and that she must be presented there and let the shareholders exercise their right to vote. No, this settlement does not put the matter to rest. Eruptions will continue long after. Why is Cablevision Systems Corporation, quote, not a signatory of the stipulation of the settlement? We're getting the shaft, shareholders. Don't let this settlement happen. Let due process happen. Bring it out before the public and before a jury. Yes? Now I want to show you my petition for writ of certiorari before the United States Supreme Court on the matter of Glendora versus Dolan Tata Cablevision, on the matter of Judge Bryant's crookedly staying Glendora's trial of these people, these lawbreakers, 4 days when it was due in 4 days. This is a stack. These are the previous papers. Now, these are not going to the United States Supreme Court. What will end up going there is approximately 60 pages. I'll just show you how far it's gone. It's been 3.5 hours working on this. This is the motion to proceed in forma pauperis. This is the affidavit in support of the motion to proceed in forma pauperis. Well, in this case, it's a declaration because you don't have. I'm not going to have it notarized. Now we come to the cover page. This is a paste-up. It has to be copied. This is the cover page. Petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. And it says name of court that last ruled upon the merits, and I make the note that they never did rule upon the merits. Judges do not rule upon merits. Judges rule upon what is best for themselves. And here are the questions presented. I think I'll sit down for this one. Should an American citizen be robbed of her Seventh Amendment right to trial by jury? Should plaintiff appellant petitioner Glendora be derived her Federal Rule of Civil Procedures Rule 38 right, that right to trial by jury shall be held inviolate? Does the United States District Judge, in this case Charles L. Bryant, have to exercise judicial decision-making authority through 56, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure? And when a case is solely about a federal question, should it be dumped on a state court? Is a United States District Judge under a statutory obligation to follow the Civil Justice Reform Act of 1990, codified as 28 United States Code, Section 473A, and rule on the merits? Does a United States District Judge, Southern District of New York, have to follow the mandate of the United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit? These are only a few of the questions involved in this chronology of white-collar crime and black-robe crime. The list of parties is as it is in the caption. And all the noise you hear is Oscar running around with a little makeshift toy. And now comes the table of authorities. And there's that famous decision that you can't rule against the pro se and dismiss her case unless you can prove beyond a doubt that she doesn't have any claim upon which relief can be granted. We have the Seventh Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, and we have the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. We have the other rules that I just read to you. And this is the table of contents. And the United States Supreme Court sends you all these forms, and they make it very easy to fill it out. And this is the jurisdiction, and they tell you how to do that. And I have jurisdictions under Title 28 in the United States Code, Section 1254, parenthesis 1. And these are the opinions below. And I'll have to list Bryant's and then go up to the U.S. Court of Appeals and list their opinions. And then that's it. You start stating the case. Statement of the case. I think this is the third time anyway, I've taken Cablevision, Dolan, Tata, and Quinn to the United States Supreme Court. Cost us $4,000. Just take a look at these other legal papers. All because they have to break the law, they have to lie about it, and they have to cover up, and they have to do this for 3 years. This is why it takes $4,000. This is why, 4,000 hours. This is why it takes $8,000. This is why it takes nearly $1 million in legal labor at $250 an hour, and we don't get paid. Everybody else gets paid. All we do is spend. Cablevision in 4 courts that I've named to you, and now, this week, tomorrow, Tuesday, New Year's Eve, they're going into a 5th court, and that's the United States District Court, Eastern District of New York. And here is the lawsuit that is going to be filed tomorrow, or we're going to try to file it tomorrow. And this is Glendora shareholder versus the Board of Directors of Cablevision Systems Corporation, and its CEO, James L. Dolan, and its chairman, Charles F. Dolan, and its CEO, James L. Dolan, and its officers and management defendant. And this is for violation of the New York State Business Corporation Law on several accounts, that prudent management would not would not break the law, first of all, would not lie about it and cover up, and would not pay attorneys' fees instead of shareholders' dividends, and would allow a shareholder to inspect the books to see who the shareholders are, and would allow a shareholder to see the minutes of the meetings of the board, and many other things. So I put up with this for about, this has been in the making for 2 years. And so that's good. We've got them in a week. Oscar said, not Oscar the cat, but Oscar the worker in a company said, every piece of equipment in our office is insured except the clock, and the employees keep a watch on that. And our company just found something that will do the work of 5 men. Our company just found something that will do the work of 5 men, 1 woman. And what do you call fake spaghetti? What do you call fake spaghetti? The great imposter. Only 18 calls came in Friday night from a chat with Glendora, down a whole lot from the record, which was 44 calls. I talked to a young man named Bob who sued the town of Huntington. He was injured through the negligence of the town of Huntington, and it was just one progression of courts, judges who were in cahoots, who colluded with people in the town of Huntington. And the man has spent all of his fortune. He's been sick. He's had to pay the doctor bills that the town of Huntington should have paid for the negligence, and he is broke. And it's another very sad story of corrupt judges and crooked lawyers. And this is through the Suffolk County Supreme Court in Riverhead. For you that Time Warner Cable versus the City of New York, I want you to know the news in that case. The lawyers have chosen to stay discovery and to stay setting the trial date pending the appeal in the United States Court of Appeals, Southern District of New York, Manhattan. So I think that's a wrong decision. I think the case should have proceeded in the district court, as it well might, all the time that it's in the United States Court of Appeals. And I think that they should have got down to discovery. They should have got down to depositions and interrogatories and inspection. They should have got that all done all the time it's being appealed, or all the time the briefs are being written for the United States Court of Appeals. And they should set the trial date. Otherwise, the thing will just languish there. So I think that was a bad decision on the part of the lawyers for Time Warner and the lawyers for the City of New York. I think it was a bad decision on the part of Judge Denise Coate. I have not heard from Time Warner as to whether they want to be my amici curiae in Glendora versus John Malone, Telecommunications Incorporated, and Bob Magnus. I have not heard if they want to be the amici curiae. But the decision of Jed Rakoff, which is another crooked decision, that it was okay for John Malone to murder public access, that's okay, is diametrically opposed to Denise Coates, and for John Malone to put commercials on a public access channel. That's diametrically opposite from Denise Coates telling New York City you can't put commercials on a public access channel. I heard, and I haven't had time to check it out, that Mangano guy, James Mangano, is not listed in Martindale-Hubbell, and that nobody can find his certificate of having been accepted as an attorney by the appellate division. So I'm going to read you a law here. It's section 264 of the judiciary law of the statutes of the state of New York. Duties of the clerk of the appellate division in each department. The clerk of each department of the appellate division, upon the payment of the fees allowed by law, must deliver to the person admitted to practice as an attorney and counselor a certificate under his hand and official seal stating that such person has been so admitted, that he has taken and subscribed the constitutional oath of office as prescribed in section 466 of this chapter, and that he has registered with the administrative office of the courts as required by section 468A of this chapter. And I have heard that Guy Mangano doesn't live up to this, and he is the chief judge of the appellate division, second department. Here is another announcement for you. This is a publication by Cablevision that's put out to the public. And here's Katie Cat. Here, news notes. And there's a few things to read to you from that. I wish I could catch Katie Cat and show her to her. Come here, Katie Cat. Come here, baby. Oh, you're my kitty. They just ran in the opposite direction because Oscar is persecuting Katie. Katie Cat, yeah. This is the kitty I rescued when she was just an itty-bitty kitten. Yeah, Katie, you watch little baby. Remember that, Katie? You watch this big long. Yeah, just this big long, Katie. Yeah, so Oscar got you all tense, hasn't he? Yeah, but you're still so pretty. That was 7 years ago. And Katie kitten. Yeah, Katie kitten. If you're good in the 600 watt light, you stay up here and I'll ask you. Anyway, I was going to read you this. I have to find the microphone. By the Long Island Coalition for Fair Broadcasting. In particular, the coalition recognized the company for its leadership role in the application of today's technology for children and young people's programming, including extra help, cable in the classroom, distance learning, its annual scholarship program, and free family cable service to more than 600 schools. Is currently immersed in the development of regional and local cable channels. According to President Josh Sapan, Rainbow is looking at developing a 10-channel package of channels to be called MetroPack. MetroPack would include local news, sports, weather, traffic, shopping, self-help, classified, and entertainment. The package might also be available on a website. A prototype of MetroPack is already in place on Long Island, where Rainbow offers Sports Channel New York, News 12 Long Island, and the Extra Help Channel, which is evolved from Homework Helper to include a variety of help and how-to shows for a diverse audience of children and adults. American Movie Classics honored at Emmys. Larry Budgeon, Margaret Albergo, Dick Grace, insurance program negotiations. I'll have to talk to him. Bud McDonough. Dan Melchers, Casey McWilliams, Ethel Way, Laura Bostani has become the system manager of the Ohio system. I think that's where Michael Zimmer went from Yonkers. So if you have things to put in the newspaper, call Kathleen Caputi at 496-8947. So you see, Katie, you sit up here and you're all right. And then that Oscar cat can't get you. This is Cablevision Investigations, which is done 15 minutes every day. This is volume 3 of it. It just is not reasonable that Bob Barra of the Board of Elections, Nassau County, on County Seat Drive, cannot produce telephone numbers. Now, these are the lists that he made for me, and they're very good, except there's more Republicans than Democrats on it. And he should have another field here, and there would have been room for another field here if these had been pushed over with the telephone numbers. It just doesn't seem reasonable that the Board of Elections does not have a computer that will give you, along with the names of the people who have to file with the Board of Elections. I'm not talking about the voters. The people who have to file their financial statements with the Board of Elections, that they can't give you a list of the telephone numbers that go with that. You see, here you have the person who's in charge, the treasurer or the president, then you have the organization, for instance, the Baldwin Republican Committee, then you have the address, 597 Terrace Place, Baldwin, New York, and the zip code. Why don't you have another field over here that says the telephone numbers? So there's a lot of explanation to do. And you know what Bob Barra's explanation was? I never call these people. It doesn't make any difference. The public has a right to know those numbers. And then he says they aren't on the application, so I know that not to be true, because I have seen the files, and everyone has a telephone number on it. So there's more hanky-panky going on at the Nassau County Board of Elections. And also more disservice to the public, and also more of this flip attitude. He says, oh, be sure you mention this on television. And I should play you the recording of it. I recorded it, and I should play it for you. James Picken was his 15th flea, fugitivism. I went to see him on Christmas Eve. And Nancy wasn't there, the usual receptionist, and 2 other people were, and they ganged up to cover up that James Picken was not going to see me. And that's the 15th time he's refused to answer my questions. It's much better to answer the questions than it is to make himself look so bad. As I've said, I am really not impressed with the commissioners I've met so far, or haven't met, but the ones I've dealt with, and that would be the Commissioner of Senior Affairs, the Commissioner of Consumer Affairs, and the Commissioner of the Board of Elections. I think those are 3 very poorly run agencies. Do you? And I don't think they are protecting the consumers and voters and citizens of Nassau County. Do you? I'm doing better and better on the Chiron out there at Hicksville. It's a wonderful machine. Michael Zamuda wrote a new book for me, especially for the BP2. The other book was for another Chiron down in Lynbrook, which is different from the one in Hicksville. And I'm getting a little better at it, but you got to bear with me. You're going to see wrong graphics. Sometimes you're not going to see any graphics at all. You're going to see not very good colors, not distinct, but it's going to take time to work those out. You're going to see a lot of breakup because of this is a different system of editing. I have to do it all by myself. I have to figure out everything by myself. And it's different, and it has to be learned. plaque or dropping out. That's the reason why, the editing, along with the fact that I am having a problem with camcorder 1, my Canon camcorder 1, which is a 1988 product. I think it has a pinch roller problem, and I think that the tape rolls off of the roll and then it gets crinkled and jammed. And so you're going to see a lot of problems from that. I'm sorry, we'll have to bear with them until we get them fixed. Black kitty who won't stop biting the hand that fed him. And I get mild reminders that he wasn't seen on TV last week. So we have to make sure that he's on every program, because he has a lot of fans out there. Yeah, he's a lot of fans. And now he's 4.5 months old. Look at him. Isn't he big? You remember when he came in? About 4 inches. They took off his flea collar because he doesn't seem to be having any fleas. But no matter what position you're in, he doesn't stop biting your fingers. Aren't you ashamed? Aren't you ashamed to do that on television? Bite the hand that feeds you, huh? But he's lovable. I still love you. Yes, I still love you. You're awfully cute. He has eye movement. You know, most cats, when they want to look at something from here to here, they move their heads. But he can actually roll his eyes. He has a lot of eye movement. I've never seen in cats. Penguin, Oscar's mother. And she's Penny Penguin because she's all dressed up in a tuxedo, just the way the penguins are. And I had to awaken her from a sleep to show her to you, so forgive me, Penny. Yeah, you're beautiful. And all of her stitches are out. They've fallen out, and she has had a good operation spayed. And that horrible thing of kittens coming into the world and having no homes and suffering, that is solved as far as Penny goes. Now, Penny's other daughter, I think, has come from the cellar in Building C, because I'm adopting that daughter, to our cellar. So now I can feed her over here. I got a cat trap, but I couldn't catch her. I wanted to catch her, bring her up here and give her a home where it's soft and warm, right? And I can't catch her. So just the way I gave you a home in your recalcitrant trunk. White creation, isn't it cute? Being color, not black and white. Some announcements. We have a law here, and by reading these books that the Federal Judicial Center sends me, I end up knowing things that lawyers don't know, and things that judges don't know. For instance, I found out in this Federal Judicial Center, the Civil Justice Reform Act source book, which I just finished. I just have one more book that the Federal Judicial Center has sent me to read, and that has taken me, 2 or 3 years. Anyhow, the Civil Justice Reform Act, it says in there that a United States District Judge has to make a decision within 60 days. Now, I've known that to be a law in the Civil Practice Laws and Rules of the State of New York, that statute, the CPLR. I've known that to be so there. But then when I would ask somebody in the federal court, how long did a district judge have to make a decision? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And finally I came across it last night. They have 60 days. And I can tell you that the judges that I have had in the United States District Court have violated this act of Congress, statutory requirements of the Civil Justice Reform Act. The Civil Justice Reform Act of 1990 required each United States District Court to implement a civil justice expense and delay reduction plan that would, quote, facilitate deliberate deliberate adjudication of civil cases on the merits. And I can tell you that every judge that I have had in the United States District Court has failed to do that. That would be Judge Cattell, Judge Broderick, Judge Bryant, Judge Parker, Judge William C. Connor, Judge Barbara S. Jones, Judge Thomas P. Grisey, Griesa is the way it's spelled, and the two magistrates, Mark D. Fox and Lisa Margaret Smith. They have failed to facilitate deliberate adjudication of civil cases on the merits. They are also statutorily required to monitor discovery, improve litigation management, and ensure just, speedy, and inexpensive resolution of civil disputes. They have failed on all of those. All of those judges listed supra. These are the jot thoughts. I believe that thoughts are the electromagnetic radiation, and I believe that they have the highest frequency and the lowest wavelength, and that they go through and they don't come back a lot of times. So when any thought you have to do something, you jot it down. And that has happened so excessively here. I have 7 groups of 10 pages of jot thoughts, and I try to read one group every day. These are the new instructions written by Michael Zamuda for the operation of the Chiron. And these are my pages, the index card that you see there. Page 1 doesn't work, and G2 is for the happy book, G3 is for the date, G4 is for TCI, G5 is We'll Fight for the Stars and Stripes Forever, G6 is Americans for Legal Reform, G7, page G7 is To Be Continued, page G8 is Glendora versus Cablevision, Dole and Tyler Quinn, G9 is, this is Oscar Cat, G10 is the Center for Judicial Accountability, that judges have to be accountable for the wrongs they do. G11 is Glendora versus Hofstetter, DeLorme, and McCormick and Lillis and U.S. West Telephone. G12 is Glendora versus Andrew J. DiPaolo, a Supreme Court Justice, County of Nassau. G13 is Mark D. Fox, the magistrate on the few of the telecommunications cases. G14 is Judge Jones, betrays her country. G15 is, you've heard of white collar crime, this is black robe crime. G16 is Glendora versus Michael Gelman, the producer of Live with Regis. G17 is Glendora versus Elizabeth Hubbard, the former director of the Fund for Modern Courts, which I call the Fund for Ancient Courts. And G18 is Crooked Lawyers and Corrupt Judges, and page G19 is Traitors to Their Country. And that's how Bob called me up, who had such a bad deal in this town of Huntington. He saw the bulletin, Crooked Lawyers and Corrupt Judges. This is TCI's report. It's almost like an annual report, and it's about their selling stock in a new company called TCI Satellite Entertainment. It's a satellite entertainment company that brings different programming on a satellite. And there's quite a few things to read to you about that, and I'll do that on the chapter, the edition that is about Westchester. This is the Long Island edition. Because every summer we send our kids to the most inexpensive and most reliable summer camp we know. It's called Camp Grandma. And Jonathan bought a computer, a calculator, and with a built-in memory, and he slammed it, he turned it on, that was it, he went to turn it on, and the calculator said, "What about yesterday when you slammed me down on the table and trying to figure out your income tax?" And Anthony says, "The boss is a mature thinker." All of his ideas are over 30 years old. This is Cablevision's third quarter report. And it's really just a form given them to fill out by the Securities Exchange Commission. The other companies, like Gannett, I haven't received any of their reports this year. Not the second quarter, the third quarter, or the fourth quarter. And Texaco, they go to great lengths to put out a very fancy report. Now there are just a few things to read to you from here. I've read you quite a few already. Let's see, 12/23 Monday. Revenues, statement of operations data. Revenues 1996 for 9 months in thousands of dollars, $955,618,000. Net loss, $325 million. Acquisitions. In August and September 1996, the company acquired all of the interests in U.S. Cable and Cablevision of Newark. The company acquired the interest in Cablevision of Boston that it did not previously own. Revenues for the 9 months ending September 30th, 1996 increased $168 million. Technical expenses increased 30%. Selling, general, and administrative expenses increased 16% to 23%. And it says, read this to you on television. Operating profit before depreciation and amortization increased 16%. Depreciation and amortization expense increased 11%. Net interest expense decreased 18%. Share of affiliates' net losses decreased from 73 million to 20 million. Write-off of deferred interest and financing costs of 1996 consists of such costs related to a refinancing of the company's subsidiary V-Cable. That must mean Viacom, which must mean Pop-Hog. Which resulted in the formation of Cablevision of Ohio in April 1996 in connection with a new reorganization and refinancing involving certain of the company's subsidiaries, and accordingly all costs associated with the initial refinancing of V-Cable in December 1992 mentioned above, aggregating $24 million, were written off during the second quarter of 1996. All these machinations. Minority interest represents NBC's share of the net income of American movie classics. Dividend requirements applicable to preferred stocks amounted to $92 million and $34 million, but we, the common stockholders, don't get anything. They mention liquidity and capital resources, but they give no figures for litigation. What their law-breaking has cost us, the shareholders, and what their lying and covering up has cost us. They don't give us those litigation expenses, and all the other companies do. But Cablevision, in their usual pattern, modus operandi, covers it up. So we have no litigation expenses listed, and Larry Tisch, when he was the owner of CBS, used to give those expenses to Evelyn Davis just like that. As noted in results of operations, the company is experiencing a significant increase in certain of its operating expenses, notably in its engineering, administrative, sales, and marketing and customer service costs. And we got restricted group and the unrestricted group. And we have Monmouth and Riverview and U.S. Cable and Rainbow Programming. On January 27, 1995, Rainbow entered into an amended and restated credit facility with Toronto Dominion, Texas, and Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce as co-agents and a group of banks for $202 million. The quarterly report on Form 10Q contains statements that constitute forward-looking statements within the meaning of the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. And we are just about at the end, but let me get up here and walk around the microphone cord and come over there and show this to you. Legal proceedings. Believe this, if you can. The company is party to various lawsuits, some involving substantial amounts. Management does not believe that such lawsuits will have a material adverse impact on the financial position of the company. Do you believe that? Well, I certainly don't. I think it's a lie. And this should be signatured, but it is not. See? It's just Barry J. O'Leary, Senior Vice President of Finance and Treasurer of Cablevision Systems Corporation, William J. Bell as Vice Chairman and Principal Financial Officer of Cablevision Systems Corporation, and Andrew H. Rosengart, a new fellow, as Senior Vice President and Controller and Chief Accounting Officer of Cablevision Systems Corporation, and no signatures, and no declaration under penalty of perjury. They are closely in association with the Bank of New York, and I don't like that. And that's the third quarter report. Named Rick Goldstein, who is doing good work on trying to get an agency that polices the police. But if the agency that polices the police is no better than the agency that we have in the state of New York that polices the judges, which is called the Commission on Judicial Conduct, which is a farce, if it's no better, then it's not going to help us, folks. But keep in mind Rick Goldstein. And keep in mind the Cable TV Access Managers Handbook. Until Cablevision, Glendora versus Hofstadter, DeLorme, Schleier, Ritter, Hawthorne, Greg Sanders, and now it's become U.S. West. Continental was gobbled up by U.S. West, and the CEO is Richard D. McCormick, and the group president of Cable is Charles Lillis. Against all those people, we have no news to tell you. Lisa Margaret Smith has not made a decision whether to deny summary judgment, which obviously should be denied. And it's languished in her chambers from July 4th, the great American patriotic holiday, to today, New Year's, without a decision. The work just isn't being done. So there's nothing to report on that. I've got to get after McCormick, the same kind of a lawsuit that's being filed against Cablevision tomorrow. And it will be in federal court because he's in Colorado and Glendora's in the state of New York. Get after McCormick to show me the minutes of the annual meeting, to show me the minutes of the board of directors, to show me the shareholders book, to show me the stock book. I have a right to see those as a shareholder. I got to get after him for that. And also Crooked John Malone. I've got to do the same thing. When Daddy picked up his son at summer camp, he said to him, "Were you lonesome?" And his son says, "No." But some of the kids were, the ones who have dogs. And Peter says, well, with all of the gadgets they put on cars, why can't they put on a car a windshield wiper that will not hold a parking ticket? And Paul found a great way to beat inflation when he gets on $2.95 and $4.95. He simply turns off the ignition and he lets the other cars push him to work. So it saves a lot of gas. Loafing Christmas Eve, the offices were not up and running. Bob Barra objected to my saying that he was loafing the week before, and he said I was taking care of my sick 8-week-old daughter. I'm sorry about that, but it still isn't being on the job. And as I say, it's an antiquated system they have there with no computers that cannot come up with those telephone numbers. What happened to the $8 million or $3 million, whatever it was, that the county legislature voted to modernize the antiquated Board of Elections in Nassau County? And why was I charged $3 for it? I don't know why. It was a list that he made for me. It wasn't a copy. Generally, though, the list is good as to addresses and names, and the name of the institution that has to file a financial report with the Board of Elections. That's good. But the whole field there of telephone numbers is missing. Well, telephone is a new invention, isn't it? We haven't had it very long. We can't get used to it, right? We don't know how to handle that. Found out what the actual settlement was between Kessler and the Cablevision, Patrick Dolan, News 12. You have a right to know what that settlement is, and so do I, and we have to just keep probing until we find out what the settlement was. And it gives you certainly an indication of the character of Patrick Dolan and of Cablevision and of News 12 when they cover up what the settlement was, and when they cover it up so assiduously. You know, we know that Julie Kessler did not get her job back as a reporter on News 12. We want to know if she got any money. We want to know if she got anything else. But the interesting thing about the settlement is that Patrick Dolan knew he was caught, and he settled. Sides have been invited to put their opinions in before you, and the lawyers for Julie Kessler have declined. Julie Kessler has declined, and Patrick Dolan and News 12 Cablevision has declined. But as we know, Cablevision is very experienced, and that is their modus operandi: cover up and lie. Said to Dick, pull over.